Hello, Room 15. It is Monday, April 13th. So the last time that we read in James and the Giant Peach was chapters 18 and 19. So I will be reading chapters 20 and 21 and 22 because 21 is pretty short. Okay? So the last thing that happened in the book was that they saw a ton of sharks swimming around the peach. Okay, and they're worried that the sharks are going to eat the peach or they're going to eat the creatures. And so they're looking for James to come up with a plan. Okay, so the last sentence was their eyes waited upon him, tense, anxious, pathetically hopeful. So they're hoping that James can think of something to save them from the sharks. Okay, so here we go, chapter 20. There is something that I believe we might try, James Henry Trotter said slowly. I'm not saying it'll work. Tell us, cried the earthworm. Tell us quick. We'll try anything you say, said the centipede, but hurry, hurry, hurry. Be quiet and let the boy speak, said the ladybug. Go on, James. They all moved a little closer to him. There was a longish pause. Go on, they cried frantically. Go on. And all the time while they were waiting, they could hear the sharks thrashing around in the water below them. It was enough to make anyone frantic. Come on, James, the ladybug said, coaxing him. I'm afraid it's no good after all, James murmured, shaking his head. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot. We don't have any string. We need hundreds of yards of string to make this work. What sort of string? Asked the old green grasshopper sharply. Any sort, just so long as it's strong. But my dear boy, that's exactly what we do have. Who knows where the string is going to come from? Does anybody have an idea? Anybody? All right, just listen and wait and see if you're right. We've got all you want. How? Where? The silkworm, cried the old green grasshopper. Did you guys think of the silkworm? If not, keep listening. Didn't you ever notice the silkworm? He's still downstairs. He never moves. He just lies there sleeping all day long. But we can easily wake him up and make him spin. And what about me, may I ask? Said Miss Spider. I can spin just as well as any silkworm. What's more, I can spin patterns. So did any of you think it was Miss Spider? If so, you were correct. Can you make it up between you? Asked James. As much as you want. And quickly? Of course, of course. And would it be strong? The strongest there is. It's as thick as your finger. But why? What are you going to do? I'm going to lift this peach clear out of the water, James announced firmly. You're mad, cried the earthworm. So is he mad angry? Or is he mad like silly or crazy in the brain? It's mad. You're mad means like you're not angry like that. You're mad means like you're silly or your ideas are crazy. It's our only chance. The boy's crazy. He's joking. Go on, James, the ladybug said gently. How are you going to do it? Skyhooks, I suppose, jeered the centipede. Seagulls, James answered calmly. The place is full of them. Look up there. They all looked up and saw a great mass of seagulls wheeling round and round in the sky. I'm going to take a long silk string, James went on, and I'm going to hoop one end of it around a seagull's neck. And then I'm going to tie the other end to the stem of the peach. He pointed to the peach stem, which was standing up like a short, thick mast in the middle of the deck. Then I'm going to get another seagull and do the same thing again. Then another and another. Ridiculous, they shouted. Absurd! Poppycock! Balderdash! Madness! And the old green grasshopper said, how could a few seagulls lift an enormous thing like this up into the air, and all of us as well? It would take hundreds, thousands. There is no shortage of seagulls, James answered. Look for yourself. We'll probably need 400, 500, 600, maybe even 1,000. I don't know. I shall simply go on hooking them up to the stem until we have enough to lift us. They'll be bound to lift us in the end. It's like balloons. You give someone enough balloons to hold on. I mean, really enough. Then up he goes. And a seagull has far more lifting power than a balloon. If only we have the time to do it. If only we are not sunk first by those awful sharks. You're absolutely off your head, said the earthworm. How honor do you propose to get a loop of string around a seagull's neck? I suppose you're going to fly up there yourself and catch it." "The boy's dotty," said the centipede. "Let him finish," said the ladybug. "Go on, James. How would you do it?" "With bait." "Bait? What sort of bait?" "What do people usually use for bait when they go fishing?" "An earthworm." "With a worm, of course. Seagulls love worms. Didn't you know that? And luckily for us, we have here the biggest, fattest, pinkest, juiciest earthworm in the world." "You can stop right there," the earthworm said sharply. "That's quite enough." "Go on," the other said, beginning to grow interest. "Go on." "The seagulls have already spotted him," James continued. "That's why there are so many of them circling around. But they daren't come down to get him while all the rest of us are standing here. So this is what—" "Stop!" cried the earthworm. "Stop, stop, stop! I won't have it. I refuse. I... "Be quiet," said the centipede. "Mind your own business." "I like that." "My dear earthworm, you're going to be eaten anyway. So what difference does it make whether it's sharks or seagulls?" "I won't do it." "Why don't we hear what the plan is first?" said the old-green grasshopper. "I don't give a hoot what the plan is," cried the earthworm. "I'm not going to be pecked to death by a bunch of seagulls." "You will be a martyr," said the centipede. "I shall respect you for the rest of my life." "So will I," said Miss Spider, "and your name will be in all the newspapers. Earthworm gives life to save friends." "But he won't have to give his life," James told them. "Now listen to me. This is what we'll do." Anybody have an idea of what they're going to do? So think of it. They're going to use string. They're going to attach one end of the string to the stem, and then the other end they're going to create almost like a loop, and then they're going to use seagulls. So does anybody know how they're going to get the loop onto the seagull? Just wait and find out. Chapter 21. "Why, it's absolutely brilliant," cried the old green grasshopper when James had explained his plan. "The boy's a genius," the centipede announced. "Now I can keep my boots on after all." "Oh, I shall be pecked to death," wailed the poor earthworm. "Of course you won't." "I will. I know I will. And I won't be able to see them coming at me because I have no eyes." Which is true. James went over and put an arm gently around the earthworm's shoulder. "I won't let them touch you," he said. "I promise I won't. But we've got to hurry. Look down there." There were more sharks than ever now around the peach. The water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers up on top, it certainly seemed as though the peach were sinking lower and lower into the water. "Action stations!" James announced. "Jump to it. There's not a moment to lose." He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. "All hands below deck except Earthworm," he ordered. "Yes, yes," they said eagerly as they scuttled into the tunnel entrance. "Come on, let's hurry." "And you, centipede," James shouted, "hop downstairs and get that silkworm to work at once. Tell him to spin, as he's never spun before. Our lives depend upon it. And the same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry on down. Start spinning." Chapter 22. In a few minutes, everything was ready. It was very quiet now on the top of the peach. There was nobody in sight, nobody except the earthworm. One half of the earthworm, looking like a great, thick, juicy pink sausage, lay innocently in the sun for all the seagulls to see. The other half of him was dangling down the tunnel. James was crouching close beside the earthworm in the tunnel entrance, just below the surface, waiting for the first seagull. He had a loop of string in his hands. "Oh, all right, here it goes." The old green grasshopper and the ladybug were further down the tunnel, holding onto the earthworm's tail, ready to pull him quickly in and out of danger as soon as James gave word. And far below, in the great hollow stone of the peach, the glowworm was lighting up the room so that the two spinners, the silkworm and Miss Spider, could see what they were doing. The centipede was down there too, exhorting them both frantically to greater efforts, and every now and again James could hear his voice coming up faintly from the depths, shouting, "Spin, silkworm, spin, you great, fat, lazy brute! Faster, faster, or we'll throw you to the sharks!" "Here comes the first seagull," whispered James. "Keep still now, earthworm, keep still. The rest of you get ready to pull." "Please don't let it spike me," begged the earthworm. I won't. Shh." Out of the corner of one eye, James watched the seagull as it came swooping down toward the earthworm. And then, suddenly, it was so close they could see its small black eyes and its curved beak, and the beak was open, ready to grab a nice piece of flesh out of Earthworm's back. "Pull!" shouted James. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug gave the earthworm tail an enormous tug, and like magic, the earthworm disappeared into the tunnel. At the same time, up went James's hand, and the seagull flew right into the loop of silk that he was holding out. The loop, which had been cleverly made, tightened just the right amount, but not too much around its neck, and the seagull was captured. So here's a picture. I don't know if you can see. Okay, so see this hole right here? This is the peach. There's the earthworm. See that? And then there's the seagull. So down there, they pull the earthworm down right as the seagull's getting close, and then James loops the string around the seagull's neck. Isn't that clever? And, okay, let's see. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug gave the earthworm's tail an enormous tug. And like magic, the earthworm disappeared in... Oh, wait, hold on a minute. I already read that. Sorry. "Hooray!" shouted the old green grasshopper, peering out of the tunnel. "Well done, James!" Up flew the seagull, with James paying out the silk string as it went. He gave it about 50 yards and then tied the string to the stem of the peach. "Next one!" he shouted, jumping back into the tunnel. "Up you get again, earthworm. Bring up some more silk, centipede." "Oh, I don't like this at all," wailed the earthworm. "It only just missed me. I even felt the wind on my back as it went swishing past." "Shh," whispered James. "Keep still. Here comes another one." So they did it again, and again, and again, and again. And the seagulls kept coming, and James caught them one after the other and tethered them to the peach stem. 100 seagulls, he shouted, wiping the sweat from his face. "Keep going," they cried. "Keep going, James." 200 seagulls, 300 seagulls, 400 seagulls. The sharks, as though sensing that they were in danger of losing their prey, were hurling themselves at the peach more furiously than ever, and the peach was sinking lower and lower still in the water. 500 seagulls, James shouted. Can you imagine what 500 seagulls looks like? That's a lot, huh? "Slughorn says he's running out of silk," yelled the centipede from below. "He says he can't keep it up much longer, nor can Miss Spider." "Tell them they've got to," James answered. "They can't stop now." "We're lifting," somebody shouted. "No, we're not. I felt it. Put on another seagull, quick." "Quiet, everybody, quiet. Here's one coming now." This was the 501st seagull, and the moment that James caught it and tethered it to the stem with all the others, the whole enormous piece suddenly started rising up slowly out of the water. "Look out! Here we go! Hold on, boys!" But then it stopped, and there it hung. It hovered and swayed, but it went no higher. The bottom of it was just touching the water. It was like a delicately balanced scale that needed only the tiniest push to tip it one way or the other. "One more will do it," shouted the old green grasshopper, looking out of the tunnel. "We're almost there." And now came the big moment. Quickly, the 502nd seagull was caught and harnessed to the peach stem, and then suddenly, but slowly, majestically, like some fabulous golden balloon, with all the seagulls straining at the strings above, the giant peach rose up, dripping out of the water, and began climbing toward the heavens. Oh my goodness, my friends, look at all those seagulls that they caught. 502 seagulls. Now, there are the creatures. See how all the strings are attached to the stem? And there they are celebrating. And look below. Look at those sharks. And look at the water dripping at the bottom like it described in the book. All right, my friends. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time.